bring into the conversation the Hertfordshire-based economist and wealth manager, Jonathan Davis. Jonathan voted to leave the EU. You disappointed by this, Jonathan?
I'm exasperated by it because, contrary to what the Liberal Democrat was saying there, who was bringing out masses of scaremongering, it was just like before the referendum, a load of nonsense. On a point of law, the three High Court judges have made their decision. It's about the royal prerogative as handed down to the Prime Minister and her ministers. Prior to us having a referendum, Parliament already voted on this, and
Jonathan, they did not vote on the procedure, though. That's the issue.
No, let me finish my point. I take that, but let me finish my point. They voted on whether or not we should have a referendum, and the then Prime Minister and his ministers said, if we are going to have a referendum, and if the vote is to leave, we will, under the royal prerogative, we will immediately put into effect Article 50 in order to set in motion the 2-year period for negotiation to come away from the EU. In other words, the royal prerogative was already in hand. It is exasperating to me that these three High Court judges, one of whom, by the way, set up a body of law which was to bring about closer unification with EU law,
Jonathan,
and I think your listeners should know that.
Jonathan, if we start,
they are the ones in the wrong here, and the appeal court.
So we're criticising the High Court judges.
That.
So what we're saying is we're criticising High Court judges. We don't need to continue with the rule of Parliament, an Act of Parliament that doesn't need. We can overrule the judges. They've got it all wrong, apparently. I'll answer your question in a second, but let me make perfectly clear. They have stated they are not saying whether or not Brexit is a good or bad thing. Quite right. What they are saying is that the royal prerogative does not land in that referendum. It appears to me that the appeal court, which is higher than these judges, will very likely see that the royal prerogative is indeed in that referendum. It won't go to appeal. Jonathan, it's going straight to the Supreme Court for the first time in British history, if I remember rightly. All 11 Supreme Court judges will rule on a basis of law only, and it's likely they will tell the Prime Minister, go away and seek an act of Parliament. All she's got to do is call Parliament together and ask for a vote.
No. You're saying you're already predefining what the Supreme Court will say, and there's 2 points I'm thinking. One, appeals happen all the time. Judges often get it wrong. That's why it goes to higher courts and eventually to the Supreme Court.
And if the Supreme Court rules against this, they decide, no, we're going to back the High Court. Where do the Brexiters go next? Do you go to the European courts?
I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine that what Theresa May and David Davis will do is put it to Parliament, because that's what this is about. It's whether or not it needs to go back to Parliament. If it goes back to Parliament in the early part of next year, you're talking about the St Albans constituency. The MP there
was really busy this afternoon, apparently.
Voted leave, and I note now that although it is true that prior to the referendum and immediately post, the minority of MPs were pro-leave.
Jonathan, let me just... I'm sorry to interrupt, but Jonathan, stay where you are. I've got to bring another caller into the conversation, and you might enjoy this, I think. Jenny's in Milton Keynes. Jenny, good afternoon to you.
Oh, no.
You're a big fan of Jonathan's.
Hello?
Yes, you're a big fan of Jonathan, aren't you?
I can't hear you properly.
You must be able to... Are you there, Jenny?
No, I can now. No, it's all right.
You're a
big fan of Jonathan,
Oh,
apparently.
yes.
How big a fan? He's here listening.
Well,
Jonathan,
big, very big. He's cheered me up because
Has he really?
I was slowly, since your programme started
here we go.
this afternoon,
Yes.
I've sunk deeper and deeper and deeper into despair.
Thank you.
Right? And I think that for the rest of the programme, once I get off the phone,
Yes, I'm waiting for
you
this.
should play music
Oh, no. Oh, no.
until you go
But
home.
but at least you've had a fix of Jonathan and you love him, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's been nice, but my brain is so haggled now that although
I've taken
realised,
2 aspirin. What do you mean? I've taken 2 aspirin already.
yeah, I
Jenny.
know you have. I listen to me, you. I've heard every bloody word you've said.
Mind your
this
language, if you will, Jenny, yes.
Yes, I've heard every word you've said.
And do you
this
want to
afternoon.
say anything to Jonathan Davis? Because he's still waiting.
Hello, Jonathan. It's
Hello there.
it's lovely to hear from you.
Well,
It's lovely to hear.
that's
lovely to-
extremely kind of you.
You know, it's lovely to hear somebody that I can believe in, because I tell you what, this is what I wanted to tell Roberto.
Yes, I'm here, yes.
Rob,
Yes.
you know, when we had the referendum
How
way
can I
back
forget?
in
Yes.
June,
Yes. How can I forget?
I sort of hadn't said much to anybody because I felt ashamed, really, in a way, that I didn't vote. But do you know why? For one thing, I wasn't, for the couple of days leading up to that, I was poorly anyway, and it was, you know. But apart from that,
Briefly, Jenny, because I've got to take some travel news, yeah?
I didn't know what I was voting for.
I don't think anyone did. Thank
Well,
you,
yeah,
Jenny.
but why did everybody go out and vote if they didn't know what they were voting for?
Because they were told a pack of lies. Jenny, thank you. Jonathan, thank you as always, my friend. Jonathan Davis, wealth manager and economist from Hertfordshire.